All right, thank you for joining us. We've got a very powerful webinar for you today. We'll be digging into how you can implement one of the hottest trends in e-commerce, and that is personalization. The promise of personalization is huge, but actually, quite frankly, delivering it can be quite difficult, and that is until now. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Basically, how we can help you predict more sales with personalization. Now, before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. All participants during the webinar will be muted, and the webinar should take about 45 minutes or so. But that doesn't mean you can't answer or ask questions. We'll do the answering. Definitely, at any time during this session, if you have a question, go to the Q&A button at the bottom of your console, type in that question. If it's something to do with logistics, we'll definitely take care of it real time. If it's a hot topic that we want everybody to get that answer, we'll answer those questions at the end of the session. My name is Bob Angus. I'll be your moderator today. I'm a strategic consultant working with SLI. I'm a e-commerce evangelist who loves great shopping experiences, very personal shopping experiences. Love that. And I've been fortunate enough to help merchants grow their business in my work with PayPal, Symantec, and Commission Junction. Plus, I was a contributing editor at Practical E-commerce. Now, we have a very special guest today joining us. Jennifer Hale is a product manager located in our New Zealand office. And Jennifer has over 12 years experience in product management at various technology companies and in the industry. She is responsible specifically at SLI for guiding product strategy and development of SLI's recommendation portfolio. So that's very, very important for personalization. And she splits her time in with the product marketing group, where she just launched our enhanced search personalization solution. So Jen, hey, thanks for joining us today.
Hello. Yes, it's great to be here.
Yeah, now it's a fascinating topic and really, really important. So what you learned today in our webinar is, first, how to personalize the whole shopping experience that your customers have and do it in real time. And that's really the key, real time as your shoppers are acting, clicking, and navigating on your site. We'll also teach you how to shorten the path to purchase, what you can do to deliver a personalized experience to all of your visitors, not just existing customers, but also those first-time visitors. And then also how continuous learning can help you generate compound revenue quarter after quarter. That's always important, more revenue. So to kick things off, a recent study distributed to all retailers at the SLI Connect event in New York City revealed that all but one of the retailers there chose personalization and relevance as the top trend impacting e-commerce in the next year. So personalization is a very real and huge opportunity for e-commerce businesses. We recognize that the buy anything at any time power of shopping and shopping online can really achieve new heights if we could just add on a just for me personal touch to the experience. Perhaps that excitement is just the fact that we ourselves in the industry are also shoppers too. don't you just love it when the barista at your local Starbucks says, "Hey, how's it going?" and asks if you want your standard triple shot latte. That's really the key. Personalization creates a powerful, positive emotion, and that emotion almost compels you to buy. So personalization creates emotion and drives action. So yeah, and I imagine, just like I just said, the Starbucks example, but you probably have stories about great personal shopping experiences yourself, from a department store or hardware store, the local gym, or even, your favorite restaurant. You really, really wish that you could replicate that amazing experience for your shoppers. And, it's so powerful because we've experienced it ourselves. So, of course, in the industry, we're bought in that personalization is important. And now really the good news is that it's proving out with online consumers as well. There's a great study that Accenture just posted last month where they polled over 1,500 U.S. and U.K. consumers. Shoppers have a very positive attitude towards personalized offerings and services. Whether it's remembering their name, displaying relevant product recommendations, or knowing just what they've purchased in the past. 75% of the respondents to the survey were more likely to buy if there was at least one of those elements of personalization. And that's really the key. Is we believe it, our customers believe it, they're acting on it. So now this leads me to a quick poll for you in the audience. Where do you think your business is going to get the big payoff for personalization? So I'm going to ask this poll question. It's pushed to your screen. What is your number one goal for personalization? So you could choose one of these options. Does it increase return buyers for you? Do you want personalization to help you drive more traffic, increase conversions and sales, decrease acquisition costs, or increase leads? Actually, all of those are really important. We love more traffic. We love return buyers. We love more sales and lower costs getting those sales. But personalization has facets of it that allow you to realize those things. But it's important to understand what's your number one goal. What is the big impact that personalization are you thinking about can help your business? So, and that's also, of course, going to help us as we discuss our solution today. So, all right, I think you probably have enough time. I'm going to close the poll out and look at the results in about 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's see what the survey said. Yeah, predominantly get more sales. That's always good. We in e-commerce, we love more sales and getting those conversion rates. And yeah, and that's really, really powerful. Now, interestingly, 0% said more traffic. And the reason I say that's interesting is because the VentureBeat did a survey of their own. Oops, let me go back here. VentureBeat did a survey of their own where they asked the same question. And driving more traffic or getting more folks to the site, that was their main goal for personalization. But a close second was getting more sales. So the challenge is that I'm gonna slide here. The challenge is that with more sales, that's the big draw for us in e-commerce. Why personalization is top of mind as a solution. And basically it's because we work really hard to get folks to our site, but it's really also even more hard to convert them once they're there. And so now personalization has taken on that epic top priority status. But first, before I tell you, what is personalization really in the e-commerce space? I think that the simple definition is personalization involves a custom response to consumers. And that custom response is based on who they are and if there's a trigger or signal that we could pick up on to then display or provide that great custom response. Now some equate personalization with true one-to-one relationship, in which each individual consumer, as they come to your site, they get a perfect data-driven, unique experience that only that one shopper can get. Now, really, that's that ideal vision. Just imagine this one-to-one dream personal shopping paradise for, let's say for me. Let's say I land on a site, this is Bob Angus. There's only one Bob Angus for postal code 12345, who's a male, about 50 years old, and is crazy enough to do triathlons. I mean, can you say midlife crisis? But even more specifically, that whenever Bob comes to your sporting goods site, I'm all those demographic data points, but I'm also the purchaser of a red bike helmet by Rudy Project, and I bought it size large. But even better, I'm a whole fountain of other great product data. Ironman brand tri-top size large, and I'm trying to get to size medium. Black compression calf sleeves, red triathlon bike shoes, size 12, that are going to match my tri-top. Of course, I have to have a super fancy Bianchi Italian tri-bike with super fast aero wheels on it. Arm warmers, bike gloves, and bike shorts. All of those things Ironman branded. I love that. Oops. But not that Ironman. Yes, personalization is powerful, but it can go wrong oh so fast if relevance is based on just a simple keyword. But I think you get the idea. This one-to-one perfect personalization, it's almost a utopian ideal of what personalization can do to convert more shoppers. Because they think, it's like magically presenting the products that are just for that one unique buyer is going to get that conversion. And that's certainly a great goal, but the reality is it's a little bit different. And that's really both in terms of user experience, implementation, and the potential ROI, which is very important for us. That scenario I just showed requires that you already know me and that I've already bought something from you. Now, the vast majority of your shoppers are first-time visitors. So how is personalization going to work for them? And for those returning customers even, if somebody has bought something from you, to deliver a one-to-one personalized experience in that utopian ideal, that requires them to be logged in. And as we know, folks really log in maybe at the checkout phase at most, and not when they're shopping up front. And I really, really doubt that you're going to interrupt, or your designers more specifically, are going to interrupt the shopper and say, stop, log in first, then we're going to personalize everything for you. And just imagine doing that on mobile. They are not going to log in before they start buying. So, and that's basically because personalization, that experience really needs to be seamless, just like everything else in the shopping experience. And it really doesn't stop there too. This utopian ideal would require a ton of big data work and complexity and storage and databases to parse through, and a lot of personally identifiable information that you're storing. So, we as marketers, we cringe as soon as we see that dreaded database visual that I have up on the slide. It usually comes with a massive project that's going to take a long time, require a lot of security, privacy hassles, and of course, a huge, huge budget. So, that's the reality. Is like, personalization. We know it can have a big payoff, but delivering it can be really hard. Well, fortunately, it doesn't have to be that daunting, be-all, end-all type solution. There is a spectrum of options for you to jump on board personalization, and you could do it today. And really, you can start with relevance. It's possible for you to deliver an experience that feels like one-to-one to the consumer, to your shopper. So, relevance really at the end of the day is personalization. And, great news, you probably already have access to information that can provide consumers with what they feel is a personalized experience. You know what product they clicked on in a session. You know what they've searched for. You know kind of the breadcrumb trail of the navigation clicks or the filtering that they're doing. So start with understanding their behaviors that they've already taken on your site, and again, in real time in a session, and then layer on some simple to determine segments like gender or brand, location. You know their IP address, so you probably know their location as well. You also know what season it is out there. That the customer doesn't even have to act, but you probably are doing merchandising around the season. That feels personal. So really start off with relevance around some simple segmentation, and then really, of course, it is about the payoff. And the good news is, again, the ROI is proven for relevant product discovery experiences today already. Things like search and navigation and recommendations, plus those core e-commerce functions are much, much simpler to implement, and they're not really that budget busting like that big database project. And that's really what spurred us on here at SLI. Is as we get to see this every day. And as much as we retailers like to believe that we're calling all the shots on personalization, the consumer is ultimately the one who decides what is relevant and valuable and appropriate, and they vote with their searches and their clicks. And SLI sees this every single day, We serve over 18 billion search queries this year, or that's what we're on track to, which is like 50 million a day. And that has a wealth of insight into delivering a personalized experience for shoppers, really wherever they are. And that user behavior data, along with data from other multiple sources that you have at your disposal, can take relevance and personalization to the next level. Basically, you could plug that information into a machine learning platform, and like SLI's introduction of the Buyer Engine, which is a machine learning platform for e-commerce. But you want that engine that continuously learns and improves and is built to do one critical thing, and that's predict what shoppers are most likely to buy right now. That's a personalized solution, something that learns with the experience of your shoppers and what they're actually doing. And the result of that can be really amazing. Here at SLI in the halls, we talk a lot about that if you could create a virtuous cycle for your business, you are going to win. Those businesses that can generate compound growth quarter after quarter, year after year, they're going to stand out. It's not just about all boats rising with the tide and flat growth. We're going to all have very good growth in e-commerce, but the ones that can get compound growth are going to win. And so personalization, powered by machine learning. It truly is a wonderful story because better user experience leads to more user behavior, which then leads to more traffic, which leads to more folks coming to your site and entering into that user experience, and so on and so on and so on. So compounding growth through personalization can be a huge, huge win for you, and it's going to help you stand out from the crowd. So with that, we want to introduce enhanced search personalization and really, go dig into more exactly, well, how exactly is that personalization going to work? And that's where Jennifer comes in. That's what she's going to be able to share with you, what is going on with search personalization. So Jennifer, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. So yes, today I am going to be talking about SLI's personalization solution that we just introduced a few weeks ago, which is Enhanced Search Personalization, or we call it ESP for short. But first, I just wanted to take a step back and sort of give some insight on why SLI decided to go more into this personalization space. And really what we saw in the industry was that search providers and personalization providers were these very distinct and separate entities, and there was very little overlap between them. And what that meant is that there are very few providers who understand the challenges and the issues that both experiences are trying to address, but because they are operating on two different technologies as well, they're not as able to leverage the data that they're gaining on both sides and the learnings that they're getting in order to make both experiences better. And we also find that a lot of the search experiences we were seeing, whether those were built in-house or came with the platform, not all of them had the most relevant experience. And in some ways, they were trying to, I call it the Band-Aid factor, so trying to then fix that by adding personalization on top of it in order to make it more relevant. However, then you have the issue, as Bob discussed before, with those first-time visitors. And these are the people you know absolutely nothing about. They've just come to your site for the first time. And it's critical from that first impression that you're going to want them to, how do they feel about your site, and of course that you want them to return. But if you don't know anything about them, what kind of experience are they going to have on your site from the minute they arrive? So as I said, it's extremely critical that you are always providing a good experience, whether they are a first-time visitor whether they're logged in, whether they're somebody who buys something every week. Everybody needs to have a good experience. You need to make sure that they're not bouncing off the site before you have that chance to learn from them, and of course the chance to personalize. So just an example, there's this person you don't know anything about, and they've searched for red cowboy boots. So you want to make sure that even though you don't know anything about them, that you're showing them the most relevant products for that search that are relevant as of that particular moment. And that's really what the Buyer Engine at SLI is doing, is it's taking the visitor activity, it's also looking at time factors, which helps bring in trending as well as seasonal factors, and it's making sure that the things that are most relevant as of that moment are what are being shown to the customer they're most likely to buy. And it's interesting as well because I think even from that search query, there is some sort of personalization or segmentation that's happening because different groups of people, different segments do describe the same thing but using different language. So because the results are optimized towards that particular query, there is already some personalization that's going on to address that. So somebody who types in red cowboy boots versus maybe crimson cowboy boots, the order of the results will be optimized according to what they searched for. So really what we're trying to achieve with ESP, I mean, everything all leads to that right-hand side. So we are, and this ties back into the poll as well. So of course, we're trying to make sure that revenue is increasing as much as possible, but also that lifetime value of the shopper is maximized. And so the first point there, so relevancy from the first moment, again, making sure that everybody on your site gets the most relevant experience, that they're not bouncing from the site, that they do stay, they do return, is extremely critical. As well, being able to adapt and refine the experience in real time. So people do shop for different people in the same session. They might be doing all of their Christmas shopping in one day. They could also have the same search term but be looking for very different things. They may have had their child's second birthday party a couple of months ago and they needed decorations, and now they've come back again to look for birthday decorations, but it's for their grandmother's 90th. So you don't necessarily want, Elmo might not be a particularly relevant theme for that case. And that's, again, making sure it's relevant and making sure that the experience is good and that they're not going to be bouncing from the site and looking somewhere else. We are always trying to connect people to the products that they want to buy as quickly as possible. So by being able to predict what they want to buy without putting the work on their side. So we don't want them to have to be refining or doing subsequent search terms in order to find what they want to buy. And this is especially critical in the mobile space as well. We find we just have a shorter time window to connect those people to the products, and as well that facet or the filtering experience on the mobile platform is, with limited screen space, is not always ideal. And so by connecting them to the products faster, you do increase your conversion rate. We do provide a customized personalization experience actually to every site. We don't have a one-size-fits-all out-of-the-box personalization solution. So we actually configure it to what is going to be the factors that impact most on your shoppers, that are unique to your shoppers and to your site. And that's making them feel, again, like they have this really unique experience. It does set you apart from your competition, and it's going to increase the likelihood that people are going to return to your site. And of course, we do want to reduce the barrier to personalization. We saw before, that big data, big projects, this utopian vision of what personalization can be. But there are some very simple things that you can do with the data that you already have, with the providers that you already have, and that can get you to realizing that increased revenue faster. And so how does this actually work on your site? What are the effects that you're going to see? So if you do have SLI Learning Search, So we are promoting products that match the attributes of the products that the shopper has already shown an interest in, the products that they've already looked at. We are just boosting the products that they are interested in, and I think that's really important. We're not filtering out results. We're not being as harsh as that because, again, we need to be able to adapt in real time and understand that people may want to, they might have been searching for shopping for somebody else initially. Now there's another person that they're shopping for, so they still have to be able to find those results, but we naturally want to boost the ones that we think are most appropriate to the top. The same goes for SLI Learning Navigation, so that browsing experience. Again, we're promoting products to the top that match the shopper's interest, but we're not pre-selecting filters. Now on the no results page, we at SLI don't think it's great that anybody doesn't find results, and so we don't want a blank page if that happens coming back to them. So we think it's actually best practice to show popular products from across the site, and you can make that even more relevant to that individual by boosting, again, those ones that match the things that they've already shown an interest in. And so you'll notice I've mentioned it several times, but that adaptation during the session and between sessions is extremely critical. So we do consider time when we look at what the shopper has looked at. So something that was the previous session isn't rated or doesn't have as much weight as something in the current session, and even within the current session, something that's happened earlier has less impact than something that has just happened right then. So giving you a bit more insight as well as to how it works. So it's actually an evolution from our personalized recommendations. So we've had those for a couple of years now, and we were able to leverage that technology that we'd already developed and some of the insights we've gained from that, and then be able to apply it to search and navigation. So as I mentioned before, we do configure it specifically to your site. So we choose what facets are going to matter the most to your shopper. And so that could be, if you're on a sports site, it could be what team they follow. Some shoppers are extremely brand loyal. We can also look at, anything such as gender, size, color, etc. And we can also consider multiple of those factors and weight them accordingly. So the brand is worth 60%, and as opposed to the color, it's only worth 40%. Now, in terms of on your site, there's really only a small piece of code that has to go on the product page, and that's just so that we can track what products the shopper is looking at. Now, going into practice on the site, when somebody comes in and they do that search, the first thing we do is relevancy. So for that term, red cowboy boots, we're looking at what products are actually relevant to that search term. On top of that, then we apply our learning. So we reorganize that the products returned according to their learned order. So that is, again, as I mentioned, taking into account visitor activity on the site. It's taking into account when that's happened. And so we're, with the Buyer Engine, we present the products as of that day that people are most likely to buy for that search term. And I think that's something that I've tried to highlight in this graphic, but that I think does differentiate us as well, is that we're not trying to use personalization rather than learning. We're able to add personalization at that last step, and that's bringing it just up that much more so that not only is it relevant to everybody, but now it's hyper-relevant and personalized to that unique individual. So I just wanted to go through a quick example. This is ESP set up on one of our customer sites, footwear, etc. And they've actually set up just a very simple personalization looking at the gender of products that people have looked at. So in this case, it's a woman has come onto the site. She's browsed the sandals, and from the results that she's shown, she's selected the product that she's most interested in. she decides she actually wants to look for what Skechers products they have. And from the results, you'll notice, because she's already shown an interest in women's products, that the women's products are all boosted to the top for that Skechers search. She again selects the product that she's most interested in, and it's just nice to note that at the bottom there they do have recommendations, and they are showing other sandals that are very similar to the one that she's looking at, just as alternative. Now, another scenario is a man comes to the site and searches for running shoes. Because it's his first time on the site, he gets a mixture of men's and women's products. Selects that man's product, which was the first one. He also decides that he wants to look for Skechers. So he does the very same search, but because he has shown an interest in men's products, the men's Skechers are boosted to the top. Again, he selects the Skechers running shoes that he's most interested in. And again, just to note, there's really nice recommendations that they've done here with other Skechers running shoes. Yeah. So I know that all goes by rather quickly, so I just wanted to show the various screenshots side by side so you can see the difference between. So if somebody had come onto the site, searched for Skechers, they would have, and we didn't know anything about them, they'd never been before, they would have gotten this mix of men's and women's products on the left there. Now that first scenario that I showed, the woman who searched, she had already shown an interest in a women's product, so when she did the Skechers search, all those women's products were boosted to the top. And for the man, the same goes for him, and the men's Skechers were promoted to the top. And I think you can see also the continuity, if you sort of match the left to the right, is that the women's products from that initial search, when she then did, the woman did the search, they are promoted in that exact same order. So again, it's just as I mentioned before, we are promoting things not just that are of interest to the shopper, but that are in the order that they're most likely to buy them. So just looking at some of the effects, you know, it does sound very simple looking at the gender of what products somebody has looked at. But I think, as Bob was saying, there are some real things that do with very simple information, and we've seen them make a huge difference. So just with that simple personalization, we've seen a 10% increase in the revenue per visitor. So that is extremely, you know, great to see. As well, they saw a 5% increase in conversion rate. And also, this was extremely interesting to us. We actually saw a 5% increase in the average order value. And when we went back and examined the baskets of the people who'd had the personalized experience, they had actually purchased more items than the people who didn't have a personalized experience. So I think that goes to show that making it easier for them to find things that they want to buy, the experience is so good that they are more likely to stay on the site longer and perhaps purchase additional products. So looking into the future, not just of ESP, but personalization in general, we have some sort of industry predictions. And I guess the first is we do just see there's a very high bar, and it's always getting raised from shoppers, from what they expect from websites and what they expect from retailers. They do expect for people to know who they are, understand what they're doing, and they just, that is not going to go anywhere. The experiences are going to get more and more sophisticated. Personalization as a key trend, so we do see them changing every year. It's been, you know, big data before a couple of years ago, then it was mobile, and definitely personalization does seem to be the thing that everybody is talking about. And I think it's just, again, making that seamless, unique experience that sets you out from the crowd, and we don't see that happening or that going anywhere anytime soon. And I think it will be really interesting as well to see how changes in behavior actually drive the direction of personalization. So some things maybe like the increase of mobile purchases, that might lead to, we see that will lead to people doing more searches with voice rather than text. And of course, when they're using voice, they're going to be more likely to use natural language queries. So what is that all going to mean for personalization? And there are some interesting things you can do. Just thinking about voice, do you need somebody to log in, or can you identify them by their voice? Or are there other things that you could infer from them if you haven't ever seen them on your site before? Can you infer perhaps their gender or maybe an age bracket and be able to personalize what you're showing to them just from hearing their voice, which would be interesting. And in terms of SLI, so we do really see personalization as relevancy. And relevancy is at the very core of what we do. So we are going to keep investing in personalization. Looking at the components of the shopping experience that we can personalize, we did start with recommendations and email recommendations and now search and navigation. But I think there are just more components that we could expand to make that whole shopping experience personalized. As well, we can expand the signals that we're looking at. So this is, taking every single data point we can from what the shopper is doing on the site to make sure we have a really rich profile of who they are. And so we're actually, right now we're looking at what products that shopper has looked at, but we're already testing, also looking at the refinements that they've chosen as well. There's a lot of talk about personalization out there, and I think there's a lot of hype out there at the moment as well. So we're always very careful to make sure that the things that we are rolling out are not just a tick-the-box type thing, that we are doing a lot of testing to make sure that if you are going to be putting this onto your site, that it is going to impact your bottom line. And of course, as we expand our personalization and learn more from our implementations, we want to make sure that we roll that back down to our original personalization offerings. So things like expanding the signals that we look at, that then comes back into our original recommendations and our email recommendations. Now, how to get ESP? Of course, if you're an SLI customer, you talk to your customer success manager. As I mentioned before, it's just a small piece of code on the product page on your side. If you are an SLI recommendations customer already, you may have that code on your product page already. So in terms of your side, it could be no work at all in terms of implementation, and fairly quick on our side in order to be able to roll it out. And if you're not an SLI customer, of course, talk to your sales representative in order to get pricing.
Okay, that is awesome, Jen. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. That spectrum of personalization solutions, but really honing in on exactly what you were saying. That's the big bang for your buck, and you can get that right now, and I think that's great. So actually, now it's the perfect time. Let's take some questions. We've got a couple of good ones that have already come in. So folks, before we jump in, make sure if you do have a question, type that into the Q&A button at the bottom of your console. Also, before we do those Q&A session, I highly recommend that everyone check out the numerous case studies and industry guides and best practice articles that we have on the SLI website. You can find those at www.sli-systems.com/resources. So with that, Jennifer, let's dive in. We actually have a question from Dawn. She asked, how does the experience work for mobile or mobile browsers?
Right. So as I mentioned before, that mobile experience is extremely critical. That there is just, maybe a shorter time window that we have to deal with, as well as limited screen real estate. So taking that onus off of the user to have to try and find the products that they want. And being able to do that automatically is so extremely important. It's seamless. It's no additional work in order for us to implement it on the mobile experience if you already have, SLI learning or SLI navigation. It's no additional steps to set that up for mobile.
Excellent. Yeah, and I loved also your future look at voice search is obviously a hot topic as well now since everybody has their mobile phone. So that would be really cool if we could personalize on that. And actually, that we talked about gender, in the example that you did with footwear, etc. Larry had a question related to that. How do you choose what to personalize on? What are the factors?
Right. So if you are a current SLI customer, we do have in our reporting, we can see which facets people are selecting. So that's a really good indication of what people are already doing on the site. And that's what we saw on footwear, etc. Now, if you're not a current SLI customer, it just requires a bit more discussion or a bit more analysis on our part. If you don't track that already, your facet activity, you may have that through GA. But we can look, we also deal with, 1,000 different sites. So we do have a lot of experience of shoppers in various verticals and their behavior. So we are able to work with you in order to decide what's the best factor for your particular site.
Okay. Cool. Actually, I have a couple of good questions about the engine and kind of how that works. Does it work on what, or I guess, does the system base the recommendations on the facets it has predetermined to be most meaningful? And this is, I think we kind of almost answered that, or does it also factor in things like click-through rates or sales, or do you just manually choose it?
Now, in terms of so we look at the relevancy first, then we do the learning on top of that. So as well as learning, we do have other re-rank sources, and so that is configurable to each site. So we do have sites that look at things from inventory data to sales data, margins, whatever they want us to use to re-rank. Then that personalization is just tweaking that with the facets that the shopper has shown an interest in on top of that. But that sort of re-ranking according to those factors, I think, happens just before really that personalization part.
Got it. And actually, yeah, and kind of a follow-on to that. So it does sound like it is that you take the products that they're most likely to buy based on aggregate data, but then is it one-on-one after that in real time?
Yes. Yeah. So as I said, we're looking real time during the session, what is happening, and adapting that personalization or adapting those products being shown by what's happening at that particular moment.
Right. I love that. Okay, yeah, so it is taking that aggregate data and powering it up in real time. I love that. That's cool. Also had a question about email campaigns, actually. So, driving traffic. How can I use personalization for email campaigns?
Right. So that's really probably coming more into the recommendation side of things as opposed to ESP. We do have customers sending personalized SLI learning recommendations in the emails already, cart confirmation emails or order confirmation emails. Whatever you know about that customer, and you access the recommendations through an API, you send us any information that you know about that user, and we create strategies that are unique to whatever the outcome is. So we have strategies that are unique, like I said, to a cart confirmation email, or as opposed to, these are the new products that you might be interested in. And then we respond with the appropriate products for you to put into your email.
Got it. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because driving traffic, again, personalization works throughout that whole experience. Okay, actually, I have a question from Brett. And this is kind of about I'll cue this up for you, Jennifer. It's kind of more the technical, how it's working on the site. When you personalize based on an individual or that in that session, what is necessary from an integration standpoint on the site, and what's happening? Does it pass a token or a cookie or an individual ID through that cookie?
Right. So that code that does go on the product page is writing those products to a cookie, which we're then able to track.
Got it. Got it. So it's a cookie, and that information, whatever, and it's real time. So actually, the cool one part of the question was, is there an individual ID? No, it's not necessarily, because they might be a returning customer, but it could also work for first-time visitors as well that haven't necessarily logged in. Cool. And we have time for one more question, and this is something that is important. Also, recommendations is good, but also navigation. How folks get. What happens with navigation or your categories on your site? Can that be personalized?
Right. So we do talk a lot about search, probably because that is our origin, but it does apply as well as much in the navigation space. And I think that's actually a really important thing to consider as well, because from our analysis, I think 80 or 90% of people who come to the site, they navigate at some point during the experience. They're not just searching. And while people who search do convert at a much higher rate, there are a lot of people in that browsing experience as well. So it's very critical to address that. So we are doing the same thing as I mentioned in search. So when they choose a facet selection, we do apply learning so that so if they selected men's shoes, we're reordering the products according to learning to, again, be the most relevant for that selection, and then we're adding the personalization on top of that. So if we said to look on that particular site at brand, and that person has already shown an interest in Adidas shoes, we boost those Adidas shoes to the top when they navigate shoes.
Excellent. Okay, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today and teach us about enhanced search personalization, or our mind reading ability, ESP. And this has been a fantastic topic, because personalization truly is one of the big promises in e-commerce, and it's great to now understand that it's so accessible. We can actually do it now, and it's not a massive project to get it done. So thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining us today. Again, we will send out a link of this webinar so you could watch it again if you have any specific points that you want to point out. And always go check us out on our website, SLIsystems.com, and check out those resources. They're great reads. Thank you very much.